The ice moon of Valori 7 had never known mercy, and tonight would be no different. Ilara Wynn pressed her back against the frozen cliff face, her breath crystallizing in the sub-zero air. The thermal suit she wore, standard issue for human explorers, had long since failed, its power cell shattered by the same kinetic blast that had killed Commander Torres 3 hours ago. Now only her body's stubborn heat kept her from joining the others in death's cold embrace. "They're circling back," Carrick's voice crackled through her helmet cum. The Valorian hunter sounded almost impressed. "Your species truly doesn't know when to surrender, does it?" Ilara allowed herself a bitter smile. Carrick had been tracking her expedition for 2 days now. Ever since they'd stumbled upon the ancient vault his people had been guarding for millennia. The Valorians were a proud species, tall, crystalline beings who had evolved in these frozen wastes, their bodies adapted to channel the moon's geothermal energy. To them, the cold wasn't an enemy, it was home. To Ilara, it was a ticking clock counting down to her death. "We didn't come here to steal," she transmitted back, knowing he was listening. "We came to study." "To learn. You came to take what isn't yours," Carrick replied. Like all warm bloods do, the arrow came without warning. One moment, Ilara was scanning the horizon for movement. The next, a crystalline projectile impossibly sharp, glowing with channeled energy, punched through her chest plate and buried itself between her ribs. The impact slammed her against the rock wall as she crumpled to the ground, her weapon clattering away across the ice. Pain exploded through her chest, not just pain cold. The arrow was conducting heat away from her body at an exponential rate, feeding on her life force like a parasite. She could feel her heartbeat slowing, her blood thickening. Through dimming vision she saw him approach. Carrick was magnificent in his element, 7 feet of living crystal, refracting the pale light of Valori 7's parent gas giant into 1,000 rainbow fractals. His eyes, multifaceted like a prism, studied her with something that might have been curiosity. "You should be dead already," he said, kneeling beside her. "The arrow would freeze a Threxian in seconds." "A Mendarian less," Ilara coughed, tasting copper. "Humans are stubborn." "So I see." He reached toward the arrow and she flinched, but he didn't pull it out. Instead, his crystalline fingers traced the edge of her chest plate, examining the wound. "Your biology is fascinating. Even now, your body fights. Burns its own fuel to maintain temperature. Inefficient, but effective," Ilara finished, her voice barely a whisper. Behind Carrick, movement caught her eye. A small shape, staying low to the ground, moving between the ice formations. Her heart still beating, somehow surged with hope. Private Chun, the youngest member of their expedition, barely 20 years old. Ilara had sent him to hide in the thermal vents 3 hours ago, hoping he might survive long enough for rescue. But rescue wouldn't come, not in time. The distress beacon had been destroyed with their lander. Chun was raising his plasma rifle, sighting on Carrick's back. "No," Ilara tried to say, but it came out as a gasp. Carrick's head tilted, his crystalline hearing catching the sound. He began to turn. With the last of her strength, Ilara grabbed his arm. The touch of his frozen body sent agony through her, but she held on, forcing him to look at her instead of behind him. "Wait," she breathed. "Please!" Carrick's prismatic eyes met hers, confusion flickering in their depths. "You were protecting something," Ilara continued, each word a battle. "The vault, we DIDN single quotes ... understand, but we do now. We'll leave. Tell our people ... this place is sacred. Off limits. Your word means nothing," Carrick said. But he hadn't pulled away from her grip. "It means everything," Ilara countered. Blood trickled from the corner of her mouth. "We're a young species. We make mistakes, but we learn, we adapt. That's what makes us ... Behind Carrick, she saw Chun lower the rifle slightly, confusion on his young face. "Good smart boy." "You're dying," Carrick observed, matter of fact. "Yes," Ilara felt the darkness creeping in at the edges of her vision, so cold now, so terribly cold. "But he doesn't have to." She managed the smallest nod toward Chun's position. Carrick turned fully then, seeing the young human for the first time. Chun had given up on stealth, stepping into the open, weapon still half raised. Tears were streaming down his face, freezing on his cheeks. "Dr. Wynn," Chun's voice broke. I can run, Ilara whispered. Then louder, drawing on reserve she didn't know she had. Chun, that's an order. Run, thermal vent, Charlie 7. Wait for the supply ship. 3 days. I can't leave you. You can. Ilara's grip on Carrick's arm loosened, her hand falling to the ice. She looked up at the Valorian hunter, finding his crystalline face in the darkness. Let him go, please. He's just a kid. Let him go home. Carrick stood slowly, his massive form blocking the gas giant's light. For a long moment he said nothing. Then he looked at Chun, who stood frozen, not with cold but with indecision. Go, Carrick commanded. Before I change my mind. Chun hesitated only a second longer, then turned and ran, disappearing into the maze of ice formations. The sound of his footsteps faded quickly in the frozen air. Ilara let out a shaking breath, relief flooding through her even as the cold claimed more territory. She had saved one. Just one. But one was enough. Carrick knelt beside her again. Why? He asked simply. Because ... double quotes. Ilara's voice was fading now, soft as snowfall. Because that's what we do. We protect our young. We sacrifice for ... the future. Even when it's foolish. Especially when it's foolish, Carrick observed. There might have been something like respect in his voice. Ilara looked up at the swirling clouds of the gas giant above, beautiful and terrible in their grandeur. Strange, how peaceful everything seemed now. The pain was distant, the cold almost comfortable. Don't cry, she whispered, though she wasn't sure if she was talking to Carrick or to Chun, wherever he was running in the dark. Stay warm, Carrick watched as the light faded from her eyes, this strange, stubborn creature who had chosen mercy over survival, compassion over revenge. He reached down and carefully closed her eyelids, a gesture of respect his people reserved for honored enemies. Your species is dangerous, he said to her unhearing ears. Not because you are strong, but because you are foolish enough to be kind. He stood and looked in the direction the young human had fled. He could track him easily, end this threat completely. But something in Ilara Wynn's final words stayed his hand. Instead, Carrick activated his own communicator, sending a message to his people. The warm bloods have withdrawn. The vault is secure. One survivor escapes to tell the tale. Let him go. As he walked away, leaving Ilara's body where it lay, Carrick understood that humanity would return to Valori's 7 one day. They were too curious, too persistent, too stubborn not to. But when they came back, they would come in peace. Because one human woman had chosen to whisper kindness with her dying breath rather than curses. And that Carrick realized made humanity the most dangerous species in the galaxy.